Welcome to another episode of Manhood Academy Interviews, and today we have Mystery Foxes. She's bumping around on Reddit, and she chimed in on, I think there was some controversial post going on regarding Chris Brown, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you probably saw the chatter going on regarding Chris Brown. I know he's a constant target of attacks and whatnot. What's your opinion on the Chris Brown issue, first of all, and then like what specifically were you commenting on? So let's cover that.
Well, to start, Chris Brown, the whole thing.
Oh, let's give a little background of the incident for just I don't know, the two people in America that don't know. Chris Brown, there was some domestic quote domestic violence incident where there were photos released of Rihanna's battered face, Chris Brown's girlfriend at the time, and everybody is getting on Chris Brown's case. Oh, I can't believe he hit a woman. He's such a misogynist. He's a terrible person. We need to cap down on domestic violence, etc.
Yeah. Which is I've seen the photos of Rihanna, which, looked like shit.
Right. But her lips busted up. She's got like a fat, a black eye and whatnot.
As a woman, I can say, it's just kind of like, oh shit, what happened? And then, you read the news. But when I read your post, I had no idea that she had started some violence as well.
Right.
So,
that's again, this is what the media never reports on. Yeah. It doesn't report on any previous instances of domestic violence where Rihanna hit him, or even the incident in question where she got punched out of it, after she first initiated the violence again. So this is her second attack, really. So, but the whole thing is portrayed as she's just a poor innocent woman doing nothing, and then all of a sudden, for some unknown reason, Chris Brown just attacks her and beats her savagely.
Yeah, and I tried not to pay attention too much to it because I fucking hate calling celebrity.
Celebrity, yeah, they don't need to be in the news any more than, Kim Kardashian needs to be in the news, but it's kind of forced into our faces, so we kind of have to deal with it or at least comment on it.
And so, in that sense, I read, oh God, she was beaten, she went to the police, and,
right.
And then now she's back, with him. But, when I read your post, I was kind of appalled because, there's a double standard.
Yeah, definitely.
But, in your post, you were really heated about it, and I get there are some cunts out there, but, I don't think it's right that she started this bullshit and was beaten.
Yeah, it's one thing. It's already suspicious right up. Whenever I read into these bullshit media reports about domestic violence, you always read it as the woman is portrayed as the victim. She's called the victim in the media reports. And it's always just a woman was standing in her house baking brownies, and suddenly man attacks her and punches her out. It just seems like it's so savage and just explosive.
Out of nowhere.
Just out of nowhere. Like the guy's just all of a sudden walking around, oh, let me just punch this bitch.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, it just sounds so phony and fabricated. There's something that rings wrong of a guy just snapping. Because you think to yourself, under what I think I got to think as a guy, under what circumstances would I just decide to just haul off and punch a girl? But it just seems so out of the realm of possibility. So you have to think there's got to be something they're not telling us. There's got to be some little background or some incident, provocation, something there. Maybe she said something at the very least. So then when you start investigating, you say, oh wait, there's previous violence here, or quote violence, where she's hitting him. There's other recorded events. There's a police report. Also in this event, there's incidents of her hitting him while he's driving. These things aren't even covered. And then the other thing that I hate, not just the fact that if we switch genders and imagine, if it was a woman that beat up a man, of course we would see the opposite analysis take place. We would say, what did he do to provoke it? Like, for instance, when there was a recent case about a woman murdering her wife, it wasn't how horrible, how heinous is the act, like in the Chris Brown case, how horrible is her face, he's a terrible person. It was immediately, what did the husband do to her to cause her to murder him? Oh, look, she was beaten. She was a chronic domestic violence victim. She put up with this incident for a long time, and finally she snapped. So she's the real victim. It's understandable that what she did, she murdered her husband, stabbed him. We need to get her into counseling. She was temporarily insane. Every justification is made for the woman. She's vindicated. She's exonerated of everything. She's celebrated as a hero for standing up to this guy. Meanwhile, he's dead. He has no say in the incident.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of similar. I've seen a lot of cases where women will chop their husband's dicks off or something.
Oh, the one that was just in the case, that they were joking about on The View. This
which is disgusting. I mean, and I'm a woman. I want equal rights just as much as men want equal rights, but in the sense that we're all fucking human beings. But if someone, I don't think that's right, that is over something stupid that you can talk about, not.
Right, and I think that the most appalling double standard is that if a guy was laughing about cutting off a chick's tits or beating a chick or domestic violence, everything in the media is geared towards shaming men. It's bad, it's wrong to commit domestic violence. You shouldn't even joke about it. It's a terrible thing. It's an epidemic. We need to have campaigns where we shame men and tell them they're doing something wrong. Mothers are raising their sons wrong. So there's always campaigns targeted at little kids. There's this kid, he's an innocent little boy, and the caption is, when I grow up, I'm going to beat my wife. So warning, people to raise their boys right, otherwise they're going to commit domestic violence. Meanwhile, you see the totally opposite spectrum here where the chicks on The View are given free license to just joke about cutting off a man's dick, as if it's nothing. So there's no focus on women being a problem. It's all focused on men being a problem. And that's really where, that really means that women aren't causing any problems, that it's solely men. So you could never there's really no solution to violence against women, because if you never address the problem, which is women instigating violence or women also committing violence, you can never solve the problem. If there is no problem presented, there's nothing to solve.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing, because there are these problems, and you see when men get frustrated, they act out violently. And if you have no way to address the source of the violence, if you can never say, well, maybe you shouldn't instigate violence against a man, maybe you shouldn't provoke him. If you can never hold anybody accountable, then guys are going to explode, because they have no recourse to address the things that are provoking them, the incidents that are leading up to the violence. So how are you ever going to solve the domestic violence problem? Men are just going to keep battering women, taking out their frustration on society.
Well, I mean, and I've never really studied into men's rights. I mean, just because I'm,
because you're a woman, and rights and the presumption that there's oppression is only geared towards women. I mean, women are the only audience for this oppression. We're oppressed, the patriarchy, etc. Your rights are being taken away. Women need equal rights. All the focus is just on women. You don't even hear that men have any problems.
And that's totally true. I mean, and I will say, I don't hear shit like that. Like, only when I dig deep or I see stuff on Reddit, then I'm like, oh, shit, there's, another side.
Right, and it's sad that, the media, which is everything that is just force-fed to us, even online media, it's all focused on the women, but to hear the side of the story of men, you have to go to, blogs, you have to go to personal web pages. You couldn't get it in the mainstream media.
Well, a friend of mine, he actually came out not too long ago and said, I was molested and stuff, and that kind of was eye-opening, too.
Right.
I was like, because there's two sides, but you never see the other side, but, I don't really know how to, fix that problem.
Right, I mean, because first of all, it's never even addressed, so this is one of the few times you hear about it, and it's funny because the women we come across, they're almost in disbelief or shocked. I mean, this issue has been going on for so long, where men's issues are swept under the rug by society. It's been going on for so long, but the men know it because they're the recipients of all the problems, so they know it, but it's such a shock to women to find out that, men have these issues, the suicide rate for men is ridiculously high compared to women, or the prostate cancer. We only hear about breast cancer, but the majority of cancers are from prostate cancer. You don't hear about prostate cancer campaigns. You only hear women, we need breast cancer awareness. So you think breast cancer is the only cancer in existence, and you think it's the top cancer when it's not. So these things are such a shock to women.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. I'm just kind of,
yeah. You're like, well, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know what to do about it. I mean, I have a husband. And
right.
I mean, we have a relationship where we fucking communicate about shit.
Right.
Like adults. But, I mean, people around me are, childish, and women will, talk shit about their boyfriends and vice versa. And I can see where men react violently to things because they can't, because otherwise they'll get,
Demasculized, right? Emasculated by society, by the women around him. And the worst part is, the worst culprits of perpetuating the emasculation are the men themselves. They're basically a lot of guys today are white knights, what you call them, manginas, pussified men. They basically have the slavery mentality of the 1860s, where they're trying to enforce slavery on behalf of the slaveholders onto their fellow slaves. So, for instance, if a slave is saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't be slaves, we should be free, maybe we should consider freedom, the other slaves will say, that's wrong, you're talking foolishness, we're a slave is our station in life. We're supposed to be slaves. It's bad to even think about freedom. Whereas today, white knights, these guys who are emasculated, growing up under single mothers, growing up under a media that just feeds them feminism, and that women are oppressed and men are the perpetrators, they enforce that same emasculation on other men. They say, the common one you'll hear is, Rihanna's a 90-pound woman. Chris Brown's 180 pounds. He shouldn't be attacking a weak, helpless woman. Whereas, if it was two guys fighting, there wouldn't be a thought of, it's a bigger guy and a smaller guy. Pick on somebody your own size. It's if you don't want to fight with a bigger guy, don't start it. Well, why couldn't you say the same thing to Rihanna? Hey, Rihanna, if you don't want to get knocked out, how about don't start a fight? I mean, it just seems like such simple logic, but yet these emasculated guys, these emasculated white knights, completely miss how to approach it in a rational way because they're so focused on what they've been fed via the media or they're even their own mothers that you never hit a woman, never hit a woman, never hit a woman under any circumstance. A woman could be stabbing you. You should never hit her. It's always.
You know what's funny? I never heard the opposite growing up. Never hit a guy.
Never hit a guy, right? You never hear that.
I mean, and of course, friends will not punch each other, but hey, slugger or something.
Right.
But I never heard growing up, hey, you shouldn't hit your boyfriend. You shouldn't hit that. Of course, I fucking don't because I'm a decent human being. But,
right.
It's really funny that you say that because I've never heard that.
Right. Well, the assumption is women are weaker. I mean, here's the problem. On one hand, they're trying to claim that women are equal to men, like they have equal strength, equal intelligence, etc. But yet, you see in so many cases, this is not so. For instance, everybody is always making the argument that Rihanna is weaker than Chris Brown. Well, if she's weaker, that implies she's not equal to Chris Brown. So why are we talking about equality when we're talking about two different gender functions? Women are not supposed to be as strong as men. Women have different gender functions. They have a womb. I don't have a womb as a guy, so I shouldn't be thinking, I need to be equal to a woman. I have to have a womb just like a woman. So there's already this problem of this forced equality where every gender function of a woman is supposed to be the same as a man. Like a man should be just as nurturing as a woman, and a woman should be just as physically capable as a man, and vice versa. So you see this immediate problem here. And then when you couple that false dichotomy of having a woman strictly equal to a man in function, and then you try to make the argument that, she's weaker, a woman is weak, Rihanna is weaker than Chris Brown, therefore it's a case of injustice. You're sending two different messages. You're sending one that, on one hand, women are exactly equal to men.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you're saying, no, women are victims. We need to protect them. Well, which is it?
She's weak, but, we're equal.
Right. You can't. Equality means responsibility. If you want to be equal to a man, you have to assume the same rights and responsibilities as a man. So we have to treat you like a man. For instance, that chick on the bus. I don't know if it's a viral YouTube video where the chick gets uppercutted by the bus driver. When she instigates violence, she shoves this guy. And you think, well, on one hand, he's a big, strong man. She's a weak girl. You shouldn't hit a girl. But on the other hand, if she's equal and you instigate violence against another man, you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
Which is it? Do we treat the woman as a victim and say, poor, frail, fragile, small woman being attacked by a big, bad man, she needs protection, therefore she's not equal to this man. She should have less rights than this man because she requires protection from this man? Or should we consider her just like a man as an equal and say, hey, you reap what you sow. You have to take the consequences of your actions. If you attack a man and you get beat up and he happens to be stronger than you and you get a terrible beatdown, sorry, maybe you shouldn't attack the man.
Well, in that sense, I just think, people should not be fucking stupid and be a decent human being and not react violently. Like, the whole thing with Rihanna and Chris Brown is like...
Well, right. They should be decent human beings and nobody should attack. But what should they do in case they do attack? Let's say a weak 90-pound woman attacks a big, burly 220-pound guy. Should she be expecting sympathy just because she's 90 pounds? How should we treat her?
And it's, as a woman, I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to get punched. But
right, I agree. I agree you deserve special protection because you're not as strong as a man. So it's just like children. They deserve special protection because they're not adults. They're not responsible like adults. I think women should receive this special protection. But, on the other hand, people are saying, well, women are equal to men. So which is it? That's my question. Which do you think it should be?
But in that sense, you're kind of painting men in this light where, they just fucking punch people all the
time. No, I'm
like,
saying if there is an attack. Let's say a woman like the bus driver, this young, teen girl attacks this older guy who's bigger, stronger. What should happen? I mean, is it justified for him to knock her out? I mean, is it?
I mean, if I were in that situation, I mean,
I'm asking you about the situation. You don't have to be in the situation. I'm asking you about the situation. This young teen girl attacks this older guy who's bigger, stronger, and he punches her, knocks her out. Is that justified?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm asking you your opinion on it. I mean, if it,
as far as my opinion goes, I mean, I'm gonna say she deserved it, but at the same time,
that's exactly what I say. Look at.
I'm caught in a corner because I was raised, to be put on this pedestal, but I don't want to be there. I mean, that's not how I want to be equal. But I mean, I guess she deserved it. I mean,
well, that's exactly my point. It's on one hand, she shouldn't be putting herself in the position of a man. She shouldn't be provoking this guy and fighting this and trying to instigate a fight with this guy because she's not a man. She's a weak 90-pound teenage girl. She shouldn't be putting herself in an equal plane with a man. She should realize her limitation. Her role as I'm sorry, what?
But in that sense, I mean, there are women that are super strong and could still beat the shit out of her.
Not many. I mean, that's another feminist myth that they always point to. Oh, there's strong women in the army and blah blah blah. No, not really. We posted a video. Jill Mills, the strongest woman in the world, arm wrestling average Joes, average guys, gets beat. This is the strongest woman in the world. So you can see the difference. And even an average guy who doesn't work out that much, the muscle mass is just much greater, just because that's biology. Males are bigger than females. It's biology. Sure, there's going to be big Russian weightlifters, but they're not the rule. They're the exception.
Hey, hold that thought 1 second.
Okay.
Hold on, sorry.
Pause the interview. So we were talking about exceptions to the rule of physicality, but the norm is that men are obviously stronger. There's video evidence of it. There's evidence in our daily lives. I mean, there's no girl I fear. Like when I'm walking on the street, I'm sure there's guys that are bigger than me and stronger than me, but when I'm walking down the street, I don't ever fear a girl. There's no girl that I can think of that I would ever fear walking down the street near.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean,
just as a guy, and I'm not the biggest guy, but I know.
But now I don't know what I should feel because this is, I'm a woman and I've been told all this shit.
Right. I mean, and that's difficult. It's like being put on the spot because all your life you're taught. I mean, it's even a controversial thing to say men are smarter than women. I mean, in my experience, we have an open challenge to debate women, or anybody really, regarding any of the things we say or teach here. From history, men have created everything. They've designed everything. Society wouldn't even be here without the work of men and their vastly superior intellect. But this is not a knock on women. This is what women don't understand, and even the emasculated white knights don't understand. Men aren't smarter because just to lord it over women or just to say, ah ha ha, you're dumb and I'm smart. No, it's just like a child and an adult. The adult's smarter because the adult has the responsibility. The adult is tasked with taking care of the child, just like men should be tasked with taking care of women. The greater intelligence, the greater strength is for caring for the women, not for competing against women. That's why women always lose in chess matches or in physical competitions against men, because they're competing against when these gender functions aren't meant to compete. Just like if I have a wife or a girlfriend and I am taking care of her, well, she has a womb to bear children. She's nurturing. She has her own female functions, whereas I have masculine gender functions. And our functions complement each other in a relationship. We're not competing. It's not like we're arm wrestling to see who's stronger, to see who gets to take care of the children, or we're competing in each other to see who gets to calculate the finances of our marriage. Our strengths go together. They work together. I mean, we're different functions, but they complement each other so that we can fulfill a job. Just like if you're in a job setting and you have a boss and he assigns different tasks to different people based on their strengths, it's not so the company competes against itself and explodes. It's so the company prospers. It's so the relationship prospers, just like in a regular relationship.
Well, in that sense, I mean, are you saying that women shouldn't be out in the workforce doing stuff?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Let me qualify that. It's not that women shouldn't work. Women definitely should work, but it's that the positions they have in society today are working against them. Like, for instance, to take care of women, which men should do because they have a greater capacity. That's why they should be responsible. Those with a greater capacity are responsible for those who have a lesser capacity. Just like, adults would take care of children. Men should take care of women, but to do that, they have to have the means. And economically, they don't have the means because when women enter into the workforce, they're taking money out of it, and then they're still saying, women still say, we posted another video where women are like, well, men should pay for the dates. Men should take care of it. Well, they can't because women are taking that money out of the workforce. Men should be earning that money, so they should be able to pay for the women's dates. But because of the feminist push where women should be given the same positions of authority as men, right now women earn more money than men, according to Hannah Rosen. They should be paying for themselves. The thought of romance is destroyed because now instead of being taken care of and wooed, you can't have that because women earn more money. Men don't even have the resources, even if they wanted to. They just don't have the money to do that because it's being taken out of the economy by women. Women should definitely be working, but they should be working domestically to complement what men are doing. So, for instance, cooking, cleaning the house, whatever needs to be done domestically, while men are out, building things, working in the economy, etc. Men should have these authority positions. Women shouldn't have authority positions over men. Men should have authority positions over women so that when men earn the money, they can then distribute that money for the welfare of the women they're in the relationship with. That's why women shouldn't be in the workforce that we see today, but they should definitely be working. But they should be working, when they're in a relationship with a man, they should be taking care of their end of the bargain, which is domestically. There's a lot of things. I mean, I used to think when I heard women should be, it's a common feminist kind of a sarcastic remark to say, oh, you want us to be barefoot in the kitchen taking care of children when we could be doing all these other things, as if that's demeaning the value of, number one, of childcare, which is a huge responsibility, and number two, cooking. I mean, just a basic thing like cooking. After watching Gordon Ramsay and, cooking shows, I was never into cooking shows until I started watching Gordon Ramsay. It's just a fascinating thing to see the discipline and the type of things that go into cooking. You realize this is a whole discipline. This is a thing that requires some skill. It's not just something where you just throw eggs in a pan. So to see the skill level it was not just fascinating but eye-opening in the sense that it gave me appreciation for this skill of cooking. And it's such an underrated thing. In feminism, it's a thing that's disparaged. It's put down. It's neglected. It's considered like menial work, like raking leaves. Women, quote, quote, women's work is so degraded by feminism that women feel shameful if they're only cooking or taking care of children. They feel shame. They're like, oh, I should be in the workforce. I should be a lawyer. I should be a banker. I should be a senator. Otherwise, I'm not worth anything as a woman. I mean, women's work is
I'm going to say, like, the majority of women that I know aren't on the extreme end of feminism.
Right. I would agree with you, yes.
CEO job, I need, I just want to make a fucking living.
Right.
I don't care to cook. It's not a big thing. But, the examples that you're giving, which are great, but they are towards the more, extreme end of the feminism.
Well, I would say even, not necessarily like extreme as far as mindset goes, but even women who don't identify as feminists at all, they're still going into the workforce and, taking money out of the economy that they shouldn't do because then it affects their relationship. I mean, if they're taking money out of the workforce, if they're becoming police officers, firemen, lawyers, professors, all these things that are part of the economy, if they're taking money out of it and men are then tasked to take care of women, it's impossible. You can't do it. There's no money to do it.
But what if you work together?
That's what I just said, but then that means you shouldn't be taking those authority positions, those jobs that require authority over men. You shouldn't be a manager.
But at the same time, if, Sue over here is a manager and her husband's a manager and they make a good living together and they do,
Right, but Sue is taking Bob's job over here, which Bob needs to take care of his relationship with his woman. So it's not just Sue and John, their relationship. Sue's management position affects this guy over here, this relationship, this couple over here, because this guy should have Sue's job. Sue shouldn't have that job.
Well, at the same time, if Sue loses that job, then John can't support him and Sue. And
No. The reason why John can't support her right now is because women are taking money out of the economy. If Sue wasn't in that managerial position, there would be more money. There would be more of a paycheck. There would be more resources. So he would be the only one that needed to work there. Do you see what I'm saying? When she takes money out, now there's less money to pay the rent.
Well, I don't know. And this is a great discussion, but at the same time, I'm like flabbergasted.
These are new concepts. They're not taught in economics. They're not taught in gender studies classes. They're not taught in school. They're definitely not taught in the media. This is the only one of the few places on the internet where you'll hear stuff like this. That's why it's understandable that you're flabbergasted. You're shocked.
It's kind of shocking to hear men talk like that, But and I respect your opinion. Obviously you put a lot of thought into it. I'm not
right. We educate men around the world. We're a worldwide academy.
I was checking out the shift myself into a different role. But I mean, I don't know what the fuck
it is, because number one, all of society has taught you the opposite, and even society right now is geared towards that. So it's very hard to even change your mindset, let alone, what you do in your daily life.
But at the same time, if I were to say, hey, I like my position, then I would be cast as greedy. That's the problem.
Like your position as what?
In my job, in life.
Right. Well, you need to realize if you take that position, again, you're taking a job away from a guy who needs that money to support his relationship. And again, it also affects your relationship because, like you said, if you have two people that you need a job and your husband needs a job because to make ends meet, you need that money. But if you weren't in the economy, there would be extra money so that you could be taken care of. Like he would need to be the only one that worked if you didn't take that money out of the economy.
But that's not what I enjoy. I mean,
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm making is that of why women shouldn't be in the economy so that they can be taken care of.
Well, like I said, I'm just kind of like...
New territory. Understandable.
I mean, and I don't want to come off as like, that really super feminist woman. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know.
You know what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to read our free ebook. It's got plenty of pictures and it's really exciting. Read that ebook, check it out, and then you could kind of give yourself time to soak it in and understand where we're coming from, and it presents more justification for our position, more arguments for our position, and then you could kind of maybe formulate your own arguments and come back with some criticisms or some questions. I can interview you again.
That might be good. I mean, then I can ask my husband how he feels.
Yeah, get your husband to read it too, and check out our site and say, hey, how does he feel about all this? We want to hear he's a guy. Let's hear his opinion.
Yeah, well, that sounds good.
Awesome. I actually got to get going. It was actually great talking to you.
It was great talking to you too.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll see you again. Your Mystery Fox is on our forum, so you can pop into the chat room, ask any of the students or instructors there. We have moderators in there. You can ask them any of your questions if you have anything about the book, site, etc.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. See you next time.